Hello and welcome to this Design Cuts video tutorial. Today we're looking at double exposures in Photoshop. Now, a double exposure effect was traditionally a film effect where you would not advance the film after you'd taken your first shot and you would take a second shot over the top of the first. And so you would have a sort of double image, if you like. It's called a double exposure. Now, most cameras these days, most digital cameras won't do double exposures because there's no film to wind forward. But you can achieve the same sort of result in Photoshop. And the wonderful thing about doing these, of course, in Photoshop is that you have complete creative control. So one area in which these double exposures can be used is in wedding photography. So I have a couple of images here that I've downloaded from unsplash.com. They're from the same photographer. And I'm going to use these to create a double exposure effect. So what I want to do is to bring the bride and groom's hands over into the wedding image. For this, I'll open up the layers palette and just drag the background layer up here over the top of the bridal image and then just hold it in position and let go. I can now drag on the image to place it in the position I want it to be in. Now, these images are not the same size, and that doesn't matter for this particular effect. I'm just going to click away here. Now, one of the ways that you can get sort of a quick and easy double exposure effect is just by blending these two layers together. And of course, when you're blending two layers together, you'll be selecting the topmost layer to apply the blend mode to. So I'll click here and click dissolve so I can travel down the blend mode list. If you're doing this on a Mac, you're going to press Shift plus or Shift minus to navigate the list. And you will want to make sure that you don't have a brush tool selected, which is why I select the marquee tool, because it just makes it nice and easy. If you're on a PC, it's even easier. You'll just use the down arrow key. And so I'm going to travel through these blend modes just to see what I can get. And this is going to be the one that ultimately I will use. It's the screen blend mode. It's always a lightning blend mode, so it works pretty well for these images. But if you want to just see what's available, keep going down the list and just see if you see something that you like even more. Soft light would do it too. That's not a bad blend mode for this combination of images. And some will be sort of out of this world and not very complementary to the project that we're working on. On a Mac, as soon as you get to the last one, which is luminosity, you'll scroll around immediately and go back up to the topmost one. On a PC, you'll have to go back yourself. So I'm just going to travel back up here and I'm looking for the screen blend mode, which is the one I've chosen. Now that I can see how these two images are interacting with each other, I might want to go ahead and size or move the overlay image, and I do want to do that. I'll hold the Shift key as I just resize it a little bit. I think it's a bit big, and I'm going to move it a little bit over here so that we can see a bit more clearly the two hands and the rings. So I'm looking for something about like this in terms of placement, but I am concerned about the finger through the groom's head, but we can easily solve that. Well, we've got another problem in addition to the finger through the groom's head here. You can see that we can see clearly the edges of the overlaid image, so we're going to need to do something about all of that. But you'll want to nail the placement pretty much before you start. So I think something like that is going to work. So the trick to blending these two images more seamlessly together is to use a mask. So with the topmost layer selected, I'll click here on the Add Layer Mask icon, and that adds a layer mask. With layer masks, you can paint with black or white or any shade of grey. So I'll go and get a brush, and I'm looking for a soft brush. So just want a circular, very, very soft brush. This has a 0 hardness. Doesn't really matter what the size is because it's really easy to change that on the go. But we will want black and white as our starting color, so I will press the letter D to go to the default colors. I also need to reverse them because, as you can see, the mask is white right now. So if I want to affect the resulting image, I'm going to need to be painting with black. So I'll go to black. Let's make the brush nice and big, and let's just paint along the very, very edge where the overlaid image and the original image are sort of intersecting, and all I'm looking to do is to soften this edge because I don't want to be able to see the edge of the photo. And that's pretty easy to do with this soft brush. The brush is actually extending well beyond the area that we're seeing on the screen. That's why I'm just rubbing it along the very, very edge, because I don't want it to eat into the image too much. I just want to soften this edge. So I'm going to work in this area too, but you can see that I'm having to sort of push my brush off the very top of the screen to be able to soften it. I could also just resize the image if I wanted to, but I do want to get that sort of look here. And I'm also, as I said, concerned about the finger through the groom's hair. So I'm going to, again, continue to work with this really, really soft brush. I'm going to size it down a little bit, but using the open square bracket. Might also adjust down the opacity of the brush, because that will allow me to build up this effect. So all I'm looking for here is to get the groom's hair back. So it looks like the image is perhaps a little bit below the groom's hair, not on top of it. So there is a very simple double exposure effect. We've used part of an image as a sort of overlay to get two images in one, if you like, in Photoshop. And for this particular one, when I'd finished this off, I would crop it. I think there's too much happening at the top of the image here, and we'll get a better result if we just crop the top away. If you are a wedding photographer, you could achieve this look with all sorts of things. You could use the bride's bouquet. You can obviously use their hands. You could use other images of detail from the bride's dress, for example, and combine it with a photograph of the couple. This effect works particularly well with images that are related to each other, for example, images that you've taken at a wedding, or images that have a sort of similar theme. It also works very well when you have images that are different in scale, and in this next example, that's exactly what we're working with. Here is an image of a bear, and we also have one of a landscape. Now, both of these are from unsplash.com. This bear is quite a bit larger than the landscape image, so the first thing I'll do is to resize it so it matches it better. I'll choose image, image size. I'm going to take it down to just a little bit narrower and a little bit shorter than the landscape image, and I know that the landscape image is just over 3000 pixels. I'm choosing a resample method that is suitable for reduction. Back to the landscape image, drag and drop the landscape image into the bear image, hold the shift key so it's placed on top of it. And this image is slightly larger than the bear image, and so it's covering it up completely, which is a good thing. I'll press Control or Command 0 to zoom in. I'm going to reverse the layers here, so I'll click the lock icon on the background layer. In earlier versions of Photoshop, you would double click on that layer. I'll move it above the landscape and then add a layer mask. From here, it's just simply a case of painting on the layer mask to reveal some of the landscape below. So we'll go back to our brush tool. I've got a nice soft brush. I'm going to adjust the hardness as I go. I'm going to check the opacity, and for now I'm going to work at about 75% opacity on the brush. I'll press the letter D, so I'm working with the default colors, which are black and white. I have my layer mask targeted, so in the first pass I'm going to brush over this image with black, but at 75% opacity on the brush, so I'm still seeing some of the bear image underneath, and that's going to allow me to make some choices about where I'm going to reveal the bear image and where I'm going to reveal the landscape below. I think it's really important that we see the bear's eyes, and so I'm going to flip now to white and start bringing back some of that detail. I will go back to a low opacity. You'll be working between sort of black and white and grey, and also adjusting the opacity as you go on this effect, just so that you can pick out the details that you want. I do want to see the eyes quite clearly. And I do want to see the nose as well, so I'm just going to brush in the nose. There's also some detail that's visible on the jawline of the bear here. If you want to see the original image, hold the shift key as you click on the layer mask. That makes it easy to flip between the image with and without the layer mask, so that you can pick up the details where they are in the underlying image. So I just want a bit of that jawline. Now I'm going to look more at the landscape, so I'll go back to either black, or I could be painting with a very dark grey. size the brush. I'm using the open and close square bracket keys on the brush. I'm going to increase the opacity a little bit and start working around the edges in the areas that I just want to see the landscape. So I don't want to see the rocks that we had in the original image. So I'm going to come in and go over them again with this soft brush so everything's blended in really nicely. But you may want to be varying the opacity depending on how much of something you want to get rid of. And because I want to get rid of the entire rock area, then painting with 100% opacity with a dark, almost black brush will just about do it for me. Let's go to black. I just pressed the letter D to go to the default colors because I wanted to get the edge of a rock out of there. So having done that, I'm now going to focus on the top of the image, and let's go back to a reduced opacity, large soft brush, and let's start getting rid of the areas of the bear that we just don't want to see. We don't need to see them because it's pretty obvious that it's a bear at this stage. I'm going to wipe those areas out, flip back to my white at a very low opacity, and just bring in the very little bits that I want. So let me just work with a lighter grey. You might find that white is just a bit too heavy a color to work with, and you actually do want to be working with shades of grey instead. And basically you're going to be working between the two images via the mask, painting with white or light grey to bring the elements of the bear back, and painting with black or dark grey to bring in the landscape. And you just want some combination of the two that is aesthetically pleasing to you. I hope that you've enjoyed learning these Photoshop double exposure techniques. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this tutorial. Until next time, I'm Helen Bradley for Design Cuts.